Good morning and welcome to our community affairs program that we call 30 Minutes. Today our special guest is longtime Union City broadcaster and Mayor Terry Hailey. And boy, we appreciate you being here.
All right, you must have been hard up for a program, huh? Who can we get to come in and fill this space?
Mayor Hailey, seemed like something special happened this week we can talk about for a little while. Right. We're glad to have you here.
Okay, I'm
Sitting
glad
in
to
front of
here.
that microphone that's just your life.
Pretty normal.
Absolutely. A long time. I do appreciate you taking some time away from your boat there at Kentucky Lake to be on the program. The sun's shining pretty.
That's right, but it's hot.
I do appreciate that. As most everyone has heard this week, Terry was honored with his selection for induction into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Very well deserved, and really, I would say, overdue.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great to hear.
Well, I appreciate it, and Tyler Hawks and Tom Britt evidently had something to do with it, so there you go.
Yeah.
So,
they thought about you. They hadn't forgot you.
Evidently.
Well, tell me this. What was your thoughts when you was made aware of being in this class of 2025?
I don't know. You know, I'm not one who is in the accolade business at all, and I sort of shy away from this kind of thing as far as honors are concerned. But obviously, I'm honored that the peers across the state felt like that I needed to be in there. So here we are.
But it's something you should enjoy and be very proud of.
I am. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. Yeah, sure.
Because how many thousands of radio people across the state don't achieve this? You know?
I'm sure that's true.
So, it says that the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame recognizes individuals who have made significant contributions to the radio industry in the state. And I think that's true for your, did it say 51 years of service?
Since 1967, ever how long that is.
Yeah. Quite some time.
It's quite some time. It's more than 50 years, but I haven't put the math to it.
Yeah, 50 years. I mean, anybody that works 50 years at any job
I agree.
is very well deserving. And on July 26th in Franklin, Terry will take his spot in the Radio Hall of Fame forever.
Yeah.
And that's so your grandchildren
can
go and see that.
Yeah.
It already includes 136 members with such names. Now listen to this. You're going to have your name.
All right.
Besides such as Ralph Emery. That's great.
Yeah.
Wink Martindale, which I'm sure you know. Wink.
I do.
Bob Kessling, you've known for years and years.
That's true.
Dewey Phillips, of course, who played Elvis's first single, didn't he?
Right.
At WHBQ, wasn't it?
Right. In the basement of the Chisca Plaza Hotel.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's All Right, Mama. He played
That's
that.
right. A bunch of times in a row.
Yeah, turned the world upside down.
He did, yeah.
George Klein.
Yeah.
Big friends with Elvis.
I was on his TV show 2 or 3 times. We had this little rock and roll band, and he had a show on Channel 13 called Talent Party. And we used to go down there and perform on there. You know, the interesting thing about when you have to lip sync something and you've got a drummer, they can't they got to look like they're playing.
Right.
Well, they make a loud noise when
I
they do
bet that is hard to do. Mike Keith, the former voice of the Titans, and now the voice of the Tennessee Volunteers, and locally, of course, Paul Tinkle is also in there. Right. So, I think it's six living and 6 who are deceased that are added each year.
I think they call that the legacy members.
The legacy, the legacy, and I think they honor a station each year too, don't they? But of course, in this area, names like I see Terry Hailey and WENK, that goes together like peanut butter and jelly. You say WNK, you think of Terry Hailey.
I was just part of the furniture there.
Absolutely. I want you to tell us and tell the listeners today here how it all got started in the radio business.
Well, I was always fascinated by it when I was a kid. And I, like a lot of people who are in the broadcasting business, set up a little studio in my bedroom at the house and worked on it like I was really doing the real thing. And then in 1967, after I'd graduated from high school, I drove down to Dyersburg, and Al Wood was nice enough to give me a job at WTRO, and that's where I started at WTRO. And while I was there, we put WASL on the air. And then J.R. Moore from Union City called me and said, there's no use you driving back and forth from Troy to Dyersburg every day when you could just be driving up here and be our DJ at night. And that's what I did all the time I was at college at UT Martin. I worked the 6 to midnight shift at WENK. And not only did I work it, but I worked 7 days. I had the Monday through Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. So I was a pretty busy little disc jockey there for a while. And after that, I graduated from college. I got into the school teaching business, and I went to Obion Central to teach school for about 3 years. In the meantime, my wife went to work for Burnett's Shoe Store. And so I was there picking her up one day, and Bill Burnett was sitting in there, and I said, Bill, let's buy a radio station. And he said, okay. So we started getting partners together, and we got this little group together. It was myself and Vern Brooks and Bill Burnett and Jim Rippey Jr. And we met, and we petitioned the FCC for a construction permit. But about the same time, WENK, which had been long owned by the Dixie Network, came up for sale. So we said, it'd be better to buy that than it would be to start a new radio station. So we realized very quickly that we didn't have the money to pay what they wanted for it. So we started adding partners. And before long, we had 9 of us. And we bought the radio station, and it was very successful there until 1980, about 1979, 1980. And then, of course, the AM radio station needed an FM station so bad. So we had not been able to get a construction permit for one, because at the time they were limited on how many that you could put in the market. Those rules have been sort of relaxed a little bit, not completely, but relaxed some. But at the time, you couldn't just have you couldn't just say, we want an FM station, and it'd give you one. So Kenneth Turner had WFUL AM and FM in Fulton. And I talked to Mr. Turner several times. So on a whim one day, I sent him a postcard. And I won't tell you the amount, but I said, would you take blank for your radio stations? And about a week later, I got a postcard back, and all it said was, yes.
Oh, my goodness. That's
great. So we got...
We got WFUL.
We got WFUL FM. I got Al Wood, my old buddy who gave me a first job, bought the AM station, because you couldn't own both, because we already had an AM station, so we couldn't have another one. That's the way the rules were at the time. That's been changed, but that was the way it was at the time. So anyway, we got the radio station, and we got 2 things from him. We got the remote broadcast transmitter, which is called a Marty, and we got David Roby. That's the 2 things we got for our money. And then we started building a radio station. And in December of 1982, what became known as KF99 came on the air. And it was very successful for us for 35 years until we sold them all. So that's the way it got started for me. And KF99 was a big success listener-wise, and it sort of dominated the market as far as ratings were concerned for a long, long time. And we were one of those groups that felt it was important to know how many people were listening. So we were an Arbitron subscriber, and we didn't get just the little county by county book. We got the big book that told us exactly who was listening and who wasn't, and demographics and all that stuff. And KF99 did exceedingly well. Wow. So we were awfully proud of it for a long, long time. And then in 1989, we acquired WTPR AM and WAKQ FM in Paris. And in 1992, we acquired what became known as WTPR FM in Dover. And so that's how our 5-station group got together.
So that kept you on the road quite a lot then.
I went back and forth from Union City to Paris every day for 30 years. Yeah, sure did. There may be some people who know as much about going back and forth from here to Paris as I do, but they don't know more than I do. I can guarantee you that. Right. And sometimes I find that even though I'm the mayor of Union City, I can give directions better in Paris. Say, what street's that on? Well, anyway, I have quite a bit of experience going back and forth to Paris. So that was an add to our broadcast group.
So at the height of it, how many employees did you have to have?
The most we had was about 40, and that was in the early 90s through probably about the mid 90s, I guess, and then automation and voice tracking and all of that stuff came into being, and you didn't have to have as many people as you had. But there was a time that we had, just for WENK and KF99, it took 8 disc jockeys at 6-hour shifts to run the thing. So we had lots of folks. And
what was your listening area on the KF99 there when you first started?
It wasn't that. It was basically Obion County, Weakley County, and Fulton County. It got out further than that, but that's all we ever claimed was the audience. I tell you what, it's the same power. It's about the same thing as KYTN. Mm-hmm. So whatever KYTN claims, same difference.
But you developed a big listenership.
We had a really good listenership. It was a pop music playing station, and it catered to a mass audience. So that's why I guess we're so popular. And I'd always enjoyed it myself. So it was a good deal for us.
What was your format on the Dover and the Paris stations?
Same thing. We had our WENK when KF99 came on the air and started playing current top 40 music. Then we switched WENK to all of the previous top 40 music, like 50s, 60s, 70s, that kind of thing. So we got the Paris station, WTPR AM was 50s, 60s, 70s, and WAKQ, which, by the way, is a cool set of call letters. We called it KQ 105. But anyway, it had the same format as KF99. And then when we got the station in Dover, it just simulcasted WTPR. So that was the two formats that we had.
So did you have weather, news, and develop into the sports and all of that?
We had there was a time there in the probably in the mid 80s and up through about 1995. We had 2 full-time news directors in Union City and 1 in Paris, so we had 3 for a while. And matter of fact, it was the late Jim Cawley was one of them, and Terry Reeves, who worked for Channel 6, and he's from Hickman, by the way. He was one of them.
Friend.
And they did a good job of covering everything.
How big a role, because I know you love music, how big a role did your love of music lead you into going into radio?
Probably too much. I was more on the programming side than the sales side, and it probably would have been a little bit better if I'd been a little bit more sales savvy than I was. But I was really into the programming thing. My theory always was if the programming was good enough that you wouldn't have any trouble selling it.
Right. You were fortunate, as you said there, to start in the 60s. And playing music in the 60s, I still say to this day, some of the greatest music ever recorded. It had to be great. You were playing the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Herman Hermits.
As far as programming is concerned, when you put a new record on, you call it an ad. And I tell people, I said, I added the Beatles. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great time for music. It really was. I don't think it's been duplicated since.
No way.
And the 70s were okay. And you know what? Interestingly enough, I have Sirius XM on my car and truck, and one of the things that I hadn't realized how much I liked is 50s music. And they've got a 50s channel.
Yes.
And the 50s channel runs from like 1953 or 54 up to about 1971, something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool. I love doo-wop music, and they play a lot of it, and you just don't hear that anymore.
Right. You didn't realize you enjoyed it.
No, I didn't.
You forgot about the Platters and the Drifters and all that.
I went to Mitzi and I went to the lake to eat last Friday night, and when we got back in the truck, I said, "Look, we're going to play the 50s back home," and they played some great stuff. I mean, they really did. And I'd forgotten how much I really loved that. But the 60s to me, and I've been a program director in all the decades since the 60s up through today.
Yes.
And I don't think there's ever been an equal for the music of the 60s.
Insane. I love it. And I love 60s on 6. You're talking about the 50s. I love listening. I think, well, they call it 60s gold now.
60, they moved to 73.
Yeah. they have.
But 72 is 50s. So
I'll have to listen to
check that out.
But I love music.
Well, if you like doo-wop and real oldies but goodies like At the Hop and all those old Elvis records and everything, it's pretty good.
And you were playing records, right?
Sure, we played records. I played. I've been through all of that. When I went to work, we played records and we played cartridge tape. I played all commercials were on cartridge, and then we went to all cartridge on the music too. And then it all changed to CDs, and then it changed to hard drive. So we've been through all of that. But radio, most of it's not live anymore. Most of it's voice track. Kids who get into radio today have no idea that it used to really be a lot of work, because you had to queue up your records, you had to pull your carts to play the commercials, and you had the telephone, which was constantly ringing, and people asking for requests and that kind of thing. And that just doesn't happen anymore. So it's different. Matter of fact, I know 3, and probably more than that. I had 3 nighttime disc jockeys that met their wives on our request line. It's true.
That is great.
Yeah, really.
Calling in for requests.
Yeah, and they just got to talking to the DJ, and before long, guess what? And it may be more than that, but I know 3 right offhand.
Well, I called your stations at night and requested because you played a friend of mine. You played the Windows.
We did. Sure.
I was friends with Larry Brewer and Alan, his brother, and you all. I would call request to Windows. You all would play.
Sure, it. We played Motor Car, and we played Running Alone, and we played whatever they did, and they were really good. Matter of fact, I got an album cover on the album they put out called Running Alone, and all of them signed it. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, Larry Brewer's a friend of mine on Facebook, so I sent him a picture of it not too long ago. Mm-hmm. He said, "You still got that there?" I said, "Always keep this thing." By the way, for people who are fans of the Windows, I'll just throw this in. There is a video on the web, and if you will just type into your browser Windows Murray State, it'll come up.
I've seen it,
and it's great.
It is
really good. It's excellent quality.
It sure is.
And so I was a big fan of the Windows too. They did some concerts for us, and it was a pretty cool time.
And Larry still plays music. That's all he's ever done all of his life, isn't it?
I've got a brother that lives in Jackson, Mississippi, and I keep telling him, I said, the next time I come to Jackson, Mississippi, we're going to find you,
right,
and come to your club and sit on the front row.
He's still there.
He's still. I think he does acoustic stuff now, pretty much, but it's probably pretty good.
Right. Larry's getting a little age on him too.
Well, aren't we all?
And also, many may not know that you were actually part of a local recording band.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We had a group in high school called the Jades, and we really we played around the area. We played one of the places we played that always had a good crowd was the Kenton Youth Center. We played at the National Guard Armory at Reelfoot Lake a lot. We played at Carruthersville. We played all. We were classified as a Memphis band, but we were all from here. And a matter of fact, I think I'm the only surviving member of that group, and there were like 6 or 7 of us. The drummer may be still living, but anyway, we had a good time. And believe it or not, in that time we were in high school, and this was the mid '60s, and we were like. We would go out on Friday night and play. We'd make $100 a piece, and that was really pretty good.
I've got that in my notes
for
here.
A bunch of kids that would just go out on the road and play every week. That's $400 or $500 a month. Now, what kid was doing that?
Yeah, I've got that on my notes right here. I said you made some pretty decent money playing around the area.
We really did. It was,
and $100 back then was pretty good.
That's what I said. It was a pretty good deal. And we'd go out on Monday and put up posters where we're going to play. Staple them to light poles and just litter the area. But and then we'd have a pretty good crowd. One of our girlfriends and all would probably come and take up money at the door, and we had to hire security. That's the only thing we actually had to pay for other than ourselves.
And there are some of your songs on YouTube.
I'm sure there are. I know one of them's on there.
And which one?
When Shadows Fall, I think, is on there. I think I Ain't Got You's on there too.
And that's with the Jades.
Yeah, right.
Is that the only band you played in?
That's the only band I played in. Yeah. And
it was 5 of you in that band.
5 for a while, and 7 for a while, and then 5, and then of course it disbanded. And the founding member of it, the late Cheryl Parks, went on to form a group in Memphis called Cimarron, and they actually had a big hit record in 1971 called Rings. It got pretty close to selling 1 million copies, so they did.
They did national-wise,
well. Oh yeah, it was nice. I called him one time and I said, "Hey, they're playing your record on WLS. You better." And that's a pretty good thrill to have that done. So, he went on and I think he actually made a pretty good living off of music for a good while there.
So tell us the names of people in your band. Do you remember?
Well, I played keyboards. Cheryl Parks was the lead singer, and also played saxophone very, very well. The late Jim Hutchcraft from Samburg was the lead guitarist. Roy Dement from Dyersburg. Have you ever seen one of those Dement furniture trucks running around? It said Mayflower on them. He was the drummer. Hidry Sherfus from Glass was the bassist originally, and then he left the band, and Horace Phoebus from Ridgely came on, and Owen Lavenue was on. It was also from the Lake. David Haynes was from the Lake. Did I get them all? I think so. Anyway, there were 7 of them for a while, and then there were 5.
Wow.
You know.
Did the British invasion, the Beatles, or anything spark your interest?
I'd say it had everything to do with it. Yeah. There was there was a time there after the Beatles got started in '64. There was an invasion of that's what it's called, the British invasion. There was just a great invasion of British music, and all of these little garage bands came up from that.
And that's something you don't see or hear about around here anymore.
No, not as much. And we had some good bands. The Starlighters were a really good band from around here. The Shaggy Dogs were a really good band from around here that played. And all these people were really pretty good. Yeah.
And did you not tell me one time that you got to play the organ that Sam and Sam and the Pharaohs?
Well, it just happened to be in the recording studio. Yeah, the same one that did Woolly Bully.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Sam the Sham, but played the same keyboard he did.
Played the same one.
Yeah, right.
And he was from Memphis anyway, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah. He came by and visited me at Wink one afternoon. Domingo I can't remember what his name is, but he came by and he had a. This was way after that, and he had a record he was hawking, and he came by, and I talked to him for a while. He was a pretty interesting guy to talk to.
Well, I bet he was.
Yeah, he was.
He was in the mix of the '60s and big time.
He had. Here's 3 of his songs: Woolly Bully, Juju Hand, and Ring Dang Do. What does that tell you?
It put money in his pocket, though. He was on big time television shows.
Yeah, he did. He did really good.
And I want you to remind, especially the younger listeners, that back in those times, radio was not on 24 hours a day.
No, and as a matter of fact, I think we were the first one that did it. That's one of the claims to fame for Wink, and we actually went 24 hours in like 77, 78, Wow. And I remember people telling me, who's going to be listening then? Well, believe it or not, there are quite a few people up.
Yeah. Television wasn't 24 hours a day.
No. We went off. Here's another interesting feature. We played the national anthem. It was Dixie. There was a reason for that. Was the Dixie Network owned the station.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't say here's our national anthem and play Dixie. We just played Dixie.
Right.
We did it sign on and sign off. It was always that way.
Yeah. So what time did you start in the mornings back then?
5 a.m. and we went off at 10:30. And then we changed. When I came to work there, we changed to 10:30 to midnight, and then that stayed that way until we had bought the stations. And then about 2 years after that, we just went 24 hours, and it would have been 24 hours ever since, And that was with, you couldn't get away with it like you can now. Nowadays, people just cut voice tracks or just let the music play all night, and the automation does it. Mm-hmm. Well, then you had to have a living, breathing disc jockey at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Is that the reason that it wasn't 24 hours a day?
I'm sure it is, because you had no commercials. There was no revenue coming from that time, so there was just an extra shift that you'd had to pay for. But, interestingly enough, we actually found some people who would run commercials on it. Not very much, but a little bit. And I tell you something, I haven't worked that shift very often. I've worked it several times, but not continuously. But the people that work the overnight shift get the most interesting calls. Yeah. As you can probably imagine.
You've told me some stories
before.
before.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And I guess you can also say during your career, your radio career, you've really worked with some good people.
I have. I worked with great people a long time. That we one of the things that I guess I'm most proud of is we started a bunch of kids in the broadcasting business that have gone on to do. There was one time there in the early 90s, 3 of the kids that we started from scratch were Nashville program directors. 3. We also had the morning drive at WSB in Atlanta. We had the morning drive at one of the stations in Phoenix, Arizona, and we have one of our kids who actually did split time between Tampa and New York. Wow. Worked on the weekends there. So I'm awfully proud of all of those people, and we turned out several who went to TV stations, and I guess that's what I'm probably most proud of, is that we have a pretty good alumni association. And these people still call me.
Yeah. Well, sure. I can imagine. They started just like you did, didn't they? They started young.
They did.
Got their foot in the door. And I've heard some of your good stories from over the years. Many of them are very, very comical. Yeah. And we got a little time right quick. What one really stands out to you?
Oh, gee. I wish I'd had some warning on that. I'd have tried to think something. I don't know. We just did a lot of funny things, We would call people up, and we had this little promotion called Heine Wine that we did. That was pretty funny. We said the distillery was out at Polk Station, and people actually went looking for it. It was all fake. I don't know. I can't think of one offhand that I could tell.
We recently honored Jim Adcock before he passed away on his years of service. You worked with him for many years.
I worked with Jimmy for a long, long time, and he's a fine person. He really is.
What did he mean to you, radio?
Oh, he was just a friend for a long, long time. He had the voice, no question about that. He's a fine one. He really is, and so was the late Jim Cawley as well. He was one of them. Back when we didn't have when there weren't rules on what you could play. Like, we had pretty strict rules on what you could play. As a matter of fact, it was all planned out for you. But before we bought the station, when Jim was on, you could always tell he was working because he only played Motown songs. That's all he did.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not a thing wrong with that. But you could tell if he played about 5 of them in a row, you said, Jim must be working.
Cawley's working.
Speaking of Cawley, he was a great sportscaster. Yeah. I've done one. He had laryngitis one night, and I have done in my entire career one ball game. And he sat beside me and tried to tell me what to say. But I tell you what, I wouldn't do that again for anything. That's a job.
Another radio legend right there in the area.
Right. Yeah.
Jim.
No question.
And Larry Doxey.
Absolutely.
Mention Larry too.
Oh, Larry was a great one. He worked for us as well.
It's been good today to talk with Mayor Terry Hailey and his many years of service to the area here with radio and as the mayor. How many years have you been mayor?
38.
38 years.
Yeah.
And then we said about 51 years, over 50 years in broadcasting. And again, he is going to be inducted into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame on July 26th in Franklin, taking his spot with many, many legends from one end of the state to the other. We're very proud of him.
Well, I'm very proud to receive the honor, no question.
Thank you for coming in today.
No problem.
Mayor. And that concludes this week's 30 Minutes program. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And, of course, we invite you to tune in again next week at this same time as we bring you topics and information of importance to our listeners. From all of us here at Thunderbolt Broadcasting, until we meet again next week, I'm Charles Choate.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.